Okay. So Lalena is joining us today. She is here to speak about her experience becoming a freediving instructor and sharing a little bit on her journey in regards to freediving, including some of the highs and the lows. And so thank you everyone for joining today, and I will pass it over to Lalena.
All right. I think something you're doing for Rye is keeping my screen from sharing. It's paused for whatever reason. We're gonna start with
Um,
maybe I'll stop sharing and try again. Hold on. Share. Okay. Is it
no.
working now? No. Why is it
Jana,
paused?
it might Jana, is that from your side? Jana started the meeting, so maybe it's a setting.
Change your say. Yay.
Okay. I was hoping to see a little bit of presenter notes here, so I am just gonna go by the seat of my pants here. Okay. So let me just look something up real quick. Okay. All right. So, um, so this is going to be just a preface. This is going to be I'm just starting out as an instructor, so this is more of a talk about me becoming an instructor and what that journey was like. I'm going to share some of the challenges that I had, as well as some of the amazing things that have happened along in that journey. And maybe even just sort of provide some things that I've done in terms of trying to get pools to work with me. And some of, like, we all know that can be kind of a challenge. But yeah, so just a little bit about me. Um, I'm based in North Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm a kindergarten teacher by day. And by kindergarten teacher, I'm actually more specifically a Montessori guide. So that means I work with children ages 3 to 6. And so I get these children for 3 years, and a big part of the Montessori pedagogy is that I spend a lot of time actually observing and getting to know the children as individuals, and then really understanding sort of like, how to inspire them and how to get them over like the blocks that they have in their learning. And a lot of the learning comes from within. And what else can I say? I've been freediving for almost 3 years, and I was recently certified as a Molchanov's Wave 2 instructor just this past summer in August. So yeah, it's my first year starting. I'm running my first courses starting in June, so that's really exciting. But yeah, turns out wrangling children has really helped me for for free diving. It all requires some similar skills in terms of breath work and staying calm under pressure. So, first of all, I just want to share sort of a background of how I discovered free diving. I never knew what free diving was or heard of it up until obviously 3 years ago. But it started off with wanting to find an activity that I could do sort of in the long run, because at the time I was really big into, like, I've been mountain biking for 25 years, and I used to race across Canada and representing Canada at the World Championships. And specifically, I was a downhill racer. So the sport I was in was super high risk, and I did get injuries and concussions. And as much as I love it and I still do it, I knew I wasn't going to be doing this into my 80s and 90s. And just seeing other people with mobility issues at my age, I was like, I want something I can do for the long term. So I started off with swimming, and right away I was like, I took swim lessons as a child, but then I started again as an adult. I, went to the local pool and realized how good I felt after swimming. So I was like, okay, well, what else can I do in water? I live next to the ocean. Surely there's something I would like doing. So it started off with a kayak course. We have a kayak center really close to my house, and I wanted to do the level 1 course. And during my course, we have to do what's called the wet exit, where you have to like flip your boat and then show the instructor you can get out of your boat. But the funniest thing happened. I flipped the boat, and then all of a sudden, like it was really loud that day. There was like lots of people in the water. And as soon as I flipped the boat, I was like, there's an off switch to this world. And I kind of like braced my knees on the inside of the boat and just sort of stayed there until the instructor came and pulled me out because he thought I was in trouble. I was telling my friend about this, and he lended me the book called Deep by James Nestor. And he's like, I think you might like this. So I read the book, and the first beginning chapters, Nestor talks about a lot of, it starts off at a free dive competition. But he does eventually start talking about like the physiological adaptations of freediving, and that really sparked my curiosity. I thought that's kind of cool. You can sort of become this like superhero. So I looked into freedive courses, and sure enough, there was a lot of option in Vancouver. And the other thing that I really seem to enjoy about freediving is like when I mountain biked, I was always obsessed with like technique. So I was always, like practicing doing corners, for example, over and over again. And it was the same when I started swimming. I was like really slow and terrible initially, but I was like, okay, how can I front crawl quicker? And I started watching videos on YouTube and like practicing skills. So freediving seemed to make sense to me. So the big reason I freedive is interesting. When I discovered freediving, when I first took my course, at the time I was dealing with a lot of post-concussion syndromes from a really bad bike accident. I was having a lot of like issues with auditory, like and like too many competing sounds would get me really nauseous and almost send me into like a panic, like like a I guess anxiety attacks, which made my day job really challenging working with children. But when I took the course, I noticed a lot of that was starting to subside. So in a way, it sort of gave me like a way to figure out how to do meditation and being underwater where it's quiet. I think it just really helped promote the healing that I was going through. I love physical challenges. Like I said, I like learning skills, physical skills specifically, to try to improve. And also, it's such a big curiosity and continues to be like, what am I capable if I just keep focusing on this and working at it? That type of stuff always appeals to me. Um, and honestly, like one of the biggest things that I'm really, really starting to realize is just how amazing the free dive community is. Um, I don't know if it has to do with just the people you dive with, you trust with your life. So there's a certain amount of comfort in being vulnerable with those people. And quite honestly, I'm like some of my best friends are coming out of free diving. So that always keeps me coming back, of course. And since I discovered free diving, my Fridays have never been quite the same. Yeah. So when did I decide I wanted to become an instructor? Like what I want to share sort of like the shift that happened. So I did my Molchanov's Wave 3, and initially I wasn't thinking of being on the path of becoming an instructor. Initially, it was more about learning skills, um, just to deepen my freediving. Um, but then Luca with Sea to Sky Freediving, he ended up inviting me to assist on some courses with him over the summer, and that really lit a spark. And just seeing people like having the opportunity to witness people go in the water, they're feeling maybe insecure, maybe excited, maybe unsure, and sort of like the moment they start figuring things out and then they start realizing what is possible is just really exciting to me. And being able to connect with that really, I don't know, I think it spoke to me because it's the same things I enjoy uh, as a Montessori guide in my classroom, like helping people build confidence and empowering them with this idea that they're capable of a lot. So it's just so rewarding to witness the confidence in others grow. And also, I've had so many great mentors in the freediving community who continue to lead by example and be great inspiration to me. I'm gonna like be a little bit cheesy here, but like call out some people. But Jana has been such a huge inspiration to me. I mean, she puts so much hard work into this community. She's tough when it comes to developing technical skill, and I love that about her. And she's also like hugely like going to call people out and make sure people are diving safe. So I think those have always been really great lessons. And Roberta and Matt of Oceanoid have been amazing. You know, they I'm new to freediving in this community, but my understanding is they're kind of like old fossils in this freediving community. And I hope they're not in the room if I say that. But yeah, again, like they show me how to be like such warm-hearted, but also like really comfortable and confident, giving like strong direction to people to help them grow. And I'm gonna, Luca for giving me the opportunity to assist with him. I love Luca. He's like my unhinged inspiration of like someone that he really trusted me along the journey. And I feel like he's so passionate about all the skills involved in freediving and the science. And it's just really fun to watch him teach a course because of his passion, he goes in all kinds of different directions. And I love that about him. And then Lily Crespi is a personal coach of mine. She's based out in Nice, France, and she's just been incredible in terms of like really helping to shape my confidence and my all the mental work involved into being a free diver plus the work. And you need to be a person. Like just I find that when things get really tough in my life, there's always a lesson that Lily has taught me to help me like overcome those challenges. So yeah, just a couple call outs. Sorry. Okay, so I made the decision to become an instructor. So I ended up deciding to go to the Philippines at Camote's Freediving. Farai has trained at Camote, so she's also familiar. This is Thibaut Guinness's school, and he's a world-class free diver based out of France. Um, the truth is, when I first was making this decision to go to the Philippines, I still wasn't sure if I was going to take the instructor course. At the time, I wasn't quite meeting the performance requirements required to be an instructor, and so I wasn't really sure if I was ready. But I was going to go to the Philippines anyways. And thankfully, a few people, including Jana and Lily and Mahmoud, sorry if I mispronounced his name, but he was on an AIDA talk earlier this year. They all gave me some really great advice. And that advice was, you know what? You have a year. So if you don't make one of the requirements, who cares? You get to go and have that experience, put yourself out there, learn some skills. And if you don't happen to make it, like what's the worst thing that can happen? You just have to kind of work at it and get those requirements under you. So that was really great advice. So I ended up deciding I was going to do this. And plus, I was going for 5 weeks. So I was like, I have plenty of time. I'm really close to those requirements. So 5 weeks is tons of time to make them. Um, so off I went. All right. So this was the expectation of when I showed up. Excitement, PBs on the horizon, great opportunities to learn. I was going to get tons of water time. This was going to be awesome. And the reality, I got very sick. Yeah, this was harsh. So things didn't quite go as planned. 1 month before going to the Philippines, I got really sick. I think the doctors thought I had RSV, which is a respiratory problem. I got better and all my symptoms were seemingly gone. So I went on this trip to the Philippines. And the first thing that happened when I got in the water is I couldn't dive more than 3 meters because I suddenly got the sharp pain in my sinuses. So I knew that wasn't cleared yet, even though I could breathe properly. So there was a bit of a like some time trying to get over that, going to the clinic, getting some drugs, seeing if I can get it out. Then the neti pot, the rinsing, the head over a hot bowl of steaming water every night. I think that took like a week and a half to get over. And it was so hard because two of my friends, I think Kelly's in the room. She even came to the Philippines, and my friend Mike came to the Philippines, and they were diving, and I wasn't diving, and I was trying so hard. Um, Eventually, the sinuses started to unblock, and I was starting to be able to dive, um, and then I got whatever stomach bug it was. It was a type of amoeba. And literally on my first, like as when you're doing your instructor candidate, you have to basically teach a class. And on my first teaching the class with Thibaut Guinness in the room, world-class athlete, he's a wonderful man, but he's also very strict and very hard ass when it comes to like expectations. I'm like beating sweat. I'm white. I'm stepping out of the room to use the bathroom. I'm puking. I'm coming back into the room to continue my presentation. It was insane. I finished my presentation. I got good marks from Tebow. And then I went directly to the hospital. And Kelly knows all about it because she was there. Yeah, so I had a hospital stay, and this made me very, very weak. So yeah, even when I came out of the hospital, I was still quite sick and recovering. And then I got hit with two ear infections. So time's running out, and I haven't even got a chance to really train. And I had about 2 weeks left. So what I really like, even though at the time it was very frustrating, I was trying my best to stay really positive about it. And I think that really helped. The biggest thing is I had to readjust my expectations. So, what that meant for me is number one, being really grateful that I didn't go to the Philippines primarily as a training trip because to go and not be able to dive would have been frustrating. Number two, I thought, okay, I'm here to become an instructor. What can I do while I'm in bed and not in the water? So I took the time to study hard. I visualized teaching the skills. I talked to the toku gecko in my room and practice giving my presentations. Like, at least even though I was sick, I still had things that I could do. And it was a lot of work. So I'm actually, in some ways, really thankful that I had that opportunity to do that. And I was just trying to be super trusting in the whole process and be positive and just take each day at a time. And yeah. Uh, so yeah, in a way, it was kind of weirdly a good thing. But of course, there was the anxiety of still having to meet the depth requirements. But in the end, I passed the course and I got to actually ring the PB bell a couple times. And yeah, so I finished the course and I did all my requirements. And some of my requirements, I even went well beyond what I thought I was capable of. So yeah, in the end, it worked out. Okay, so that's just step one, becoming an instructor. Um, on my way back from the Philippines, the illness continued. So I did a very Canadian thing. I was on a 14-hour flight and I happened to be sitting I had the window seat next to two of the world's best airplane sleepers. Like they slept the whole flight. I don't know if they drugged themselves. Like I actually had to check their breathing at some point. But being super Canadian, I stopped drinking water because I was like, I don't want to have to get up and use the bathroom a ton of times. And because of that silly move, I came back and I got a blood clot. I got a deep vein thrombosis in my leg. And so I was actually supposed to do the How Deep competition, but had to cancel. And yeah, the doctors recommended that I stay out of the water. I had to go on like blood thinner medication. And so I had to stay out of the water for almost 2 months. So that was a big bummer. But during this time, I started working on like getting the liability insurance. So that's a huge challenge, by the way, for anyone who's interested in becoming a freedive instructor in Canada. The liability insurance is going to be one of your big things. It's very expensive in Canada. Um, as far as I can tell, there's only one provider that I could find that was willing to even offer professional liability insurance for freedive instructors. Um, and I think it was about $2,000 annually. And you don't have the option to do it like month by month. It has to be like a full annual thing. And just to provide some perspective, like other people in the world can get their insurance through Dan or a lot of other, like there's a lot of choice. And I think like there's people, in Europe who pay maybe $500 or 500 euros for their liability insurance. So that's a big factor here in Canada.
About 750 in the US dollars. So it's
Yeah,
about
it's a
half.
lot. Yeah. Um, I'd love to figure out how we can get more insurers on board because obviously once we have, if there's more competition, then the price has to come down. But with only having one option, you're kind of at the whims of what they're going to charge. Um, the other kind of challenge in Canada is obviously cold water. So that's going to limit your teaching season. Um, and I was kind of like, well, I'll run pool courses in the winter and certify the pool component of a free dive program. But as probably some of you know, getting pools to say yes to you to allow free dive courses is very challenging in Canada. Um, it was very frustrating to send emails out and then get emails back from pools saying they have a no breath hold policy, while at the same time on their public schedule, they have underwater hockey once a week. So it's kind of like, well, tell me about that no breath hold policy with your underwater hockey league. Um, and the problem is the pool supervisors, they don't understand the sport and what they see is what goes in the news. And what goes in the news can be someone just in the public who goes to the pool and holds their breath and something bad happens and then it's kind of lumped into like they kind of associate that with free divers. So it's a bit tricky. And I'll talk a little bit more on that later and hopefully maybe provide some tips. Um, The other thing I had to do was learn a lot of new skills. One pool had asked me, they said, well, are you just someone who wants to rent the pool or are you a business? So, like, and they asked for my website. Well, at the time, I didn't have a website. So I had to learn the skills of building a website. Um, I'm a bit nerdy. I definitely was when I was a kid. I did make a website when I was a kid, but that was in Notepad. So much different than today. Learning social media. AIDA Canada offered me to do the social media, and part of me said yes because I wanted to learn how to do it, not because I thought I was super competent at it. But yeah, and I think honestly, one of the biggest challenges is finding balance. So it's likely that you have a full-time job if you're thinking about becoming a freedive instructor. And I honestly like in my head, my logical brain said, oh, this is going to be a lot of work. But until you experience it, you're like, this is a lot of work. Like answering emails is actually a lot of work and talking to pools and building the website and trying to get everything your ducks in a row and organized. It does take a lot. And my full-time job demands a lot from me. I mean, I work with tiny children. So by the end of the day, I'm quite tired. And the last thing I want to do is kind of stare at a computer and, to work on this. But I always think kind of the big picture and I always keep the big picture in my mind. And that's what sort of keeps me moving forward. And then again, finding that balance, like I love free diving for performance reasons. So, I want to do my own training. So I'm already like, it'll be interesting reflecting on this a year from now after doing a summer of teaching free diving and then also training for myself. Now, luckily, I'm a teacher, so I don't work summers. So hopefully we can find a balance there. But I'm definitely looking at my June where I'm still teaching, writing report cards, and I'm starting to run free dive courses, and I still want to do my own training as like a little bit of a nail biter. So I have to recognize that it's going to be easy to burn out, and I need to like be careful of that. So this is where I'm going to give you some tips. And again, this isn't like uh I'm not an expert, but these are just some things that you might want to consider if you're thinking about becoming an instructor. So the biggest thing is I think it's important that you define your why. Like, why do you want to become an instructor? Because Lily actually helped me with this, and she helped me use this in free diving and training. Like when things get really, really tough, you always want to know, why are you doing this, right? Like when I teach children and I have a super challenging week, why am I doing this, right? Like it can be so easy to be frustrated and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. But if you define your why now and like literally write it down in a journal somewhere so that you can reflect on that when things get challenging or when you think like, oh my God, this is too much. Um, and then a little bit that ties into that is know your values. Like, what do you want to offer the community? Like, what kind of instructor do you want to be? What will be important to you? Um, and I think that does tie into the why because it shapes like the kind of person you want to be when you're instructing others. Um, think of the other thing I want to talk about a bit is like the imposter syndrome. And this still affects me, and it's something I often struggle with, is like, I think it's pretty normal that you're going to question if you're ready for this or if you're going to be good at this. And I think the one thing that really helps is to just be a bit grounded and know that it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think if you're feeling like any kind of doubt, I think that comes from a place of caring. So if you're feeling that doubt, it probably means you're doing it for the right reason because you want to do a good job. You genuinely want to do good with this and help people become wonderful little free divers and introduce them to this amazing activity that we all do. Um, so know that like as a teacher and so this is I haven't taught free diving yet, but I have like over 12 years experience as a teacher in my day job. Like know that the whole process of teaching is a learning experience. You're probably going to be messy in the beginning, but over the years you're going to learn and you're going to grow and um you're going to make it your own. You're going to have your own style, you're going to have your own way and I think that's like the beauty of it. In fact, sometimes I reflect on like how long do I want to be a teacher for? And one way I answered that was I asked myself, am I still learning? Because if I'm still learning, then I'm still enjoying this. There's still something there for me. So yeah. Okay, so here's a bit of the kind of more practical things. So the pools is obviously going to be a big challenge. So here are some tips from me that I thought helped. Number one, build relationships with your local pools. So if you can, swim at the pools that you want to teach at. Like swim, talk to the lifeguards, bring them coffee, the early mornings, they'll love you, you know. And once you start building a rapport with them, then you can start telling them, like, oh, you can start having conversations about freediving and how you swim to improve your technique and, like things like that. And then they're likely going to ask questions because freediving is kind of cool and it's not well understood. And you're going to get like, oh, how long can you hold your breath? And so that opens the door to talk about freediving. But more importantly, it opens the door to talk about how safe freediving is and acknowledging that like yeah I know like people come to the pool and they hold their breath and it's not really good. When I see it I usually talk to them and just let them know. So you sort of have to build this trust. Um, you may even consider taking a lifeguarding course or some kind of course to become a swim instructor, because then that gets you on the inside. And again, that continues to help build that trust. Um, the other thing that could be helpful, I started doing this, and in the end, I didn't need it, but I'm glad I did it for a couple of reasons, because I still have it in my back pocket if I need to approach different pools. But creating like a professional like expression of interest. So because I was building relationships with the local pools, not only with the lifeguards, but also with the patrons at the pool, they would start getting interested. So then I would start asking, like, do you think this would be something you'd be interested in, is taking a course or learning about freediving and this and that? And then I would get their names and their email address and contacts and ask them if they'd be okay with me putting them on an expression of interest. So that way you can present to the pool supervisors that there is a need for this. And I think the important thing is, if you do an expression of interest, ask permission to put their age and their gender, because I think if you can get a large demographic, that shows the pools that freediving is not some young person bravado sport. It's, you know, most of the people that were on my expression of interest were like, in their 40s or older. So I think that just helps create a different picture of what freediving is and who's interested in it. Um, and yeah, the other thing is start small, start comfortable. And again, this is based on your comfort level. Maybe you're totally comfortable going in like a bull and running, courses every single weekend. I'm dipping my feet a little bit. I'm running a couple courses, seeing how it goes. I want to see how I feel. I want to see how my ears handle it, being in the water a lot more. Um, but yeah, I think it's okay to start small and build from there. And that is my talk. Thank you for listening. And I'm really happy. I know we went over, but I feel like we went over because of technical difficulties. Or did we go over? No, we're still within time.
No,
Okay,
we're
good.
still good. It's 6:30. So awesome. I will have you stop sharing your screen, and then I'll put it into gallery view, and then that way people can turn their cameras on and ask questions.
Sure. Um, does anyone have any questions? I'm sort of thinking of some things maybe to offer advice wise too. Like another thing maybe I would also advise is don't be in a rush. Like if you're a level one freediver, like get super comfortable with all the level one skills before moving on to level two. But if you're really interested in being an instructor, like still keep that as the goal. But yeah, I think that's kind of another thing I would say is to be very comfortable with where you're at now. Um,
I'll ask about mental resilience. So you talked
sure.
about a lot of the things that happened. You had a lot of physical challenges that you weren't expecting. How did you continue? And then you talked about the financial challenges and then being told no. So, like, you've hit no, no, no. How do you keep the motivation to keep going?
Um, I think it comes to two things. I think the first thing is always like, I don't know. I always have this saying in my head, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, if I just keep pushing, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then I actually try to like think of it's funny. Some people get really anxious and get caught up in a cycle of anxiety, focusing on what's the worst thing that can happen. Where I very much like to look at it as a practical way and just be like, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, okay, I go to the Philippines, I get sick, I can't do my instructor course. I don't know. I met some cool people. I can always organize this next summer. Kind of sucks, but whatever, like that's sort of how my brain works. And then I think the other part too is talking about the like always having your why. So when things get really tough, I actually will go back and look at my journal and check like this is my why. And I actually go back and I modify my why. Like every few months I go back, why am I doing this? Why do I want to free dive? Why do I want to keep increasing depth? Why do I want to instruct? Um, because I think that just keeps like for me, it keeps the motivation going. Um, and I'm also like, I'm always trying to see like, okay, if this is a challenge here, how can I either like for example, when I was sick, what are some positives I can really focus on? And then just put my energy into that. So I always think of like, where am I putting my energy? Am I putting my energy into the problem, or am I like, okay, here's the problem. Now I need to put the energy into here to circumvent. Is that how you say that word? Like get around that problem, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, I don't know. And it's kind of cool because as a teacher, it's one of the values I try to really instill into my young children is that resilience and like, okay, it's okay to know that there's a problem, but how do we get past it? Like, what can we do otherwise, right? And in teaching, I always try not to give the answer right away. I always try to just like provide like little clues and like I help the young children to try to like figure out the problem or make their own discovery. Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat just to see if there's any questions we might have met. Ah, Aaron's asking about AIDA instructor requirements. Jana, you might be able to speak on that since I'm a Molchanov's instructor.
I think maybe talk about what your Molchanov's instructor requirements are first, because that's the kind of instructor you are.
Okay, now I'm being tested to see if I remember them. The depth requirements, let's say, okay, so first off, I'm going to say is that Molchanov's is very unique because it's the one agency that will have requirements in pretty much all the disciplines. Where I do believe with AIDA, I think it's like a little more limited. So for Molchanov's, for the depth, there's free immersion and and constant weight. The requirement is 40 meters. And it must be done with a mask. You're not allowed to use a nose clip for these disciplines. Um, for and there's a no fins requirement that's 30 meters. Um, and then you have your safety requirements, which are, oh, someone put it in the chat. This is great. Thank you. Yeah, so depending on what you're most comfortable with, it was actually really interesting when I was in the Philippines. Some of the people that were also doing the instructor course with me, they were like diving 70 meters, but they were like sweating bullets over the pool requirements, and some of them really struggled with it. So I found that really fascinating. For me, I was like completely the opposite. I was like fine with the pool stuff, but it was the couple of the depth requirements that were a little tricky for me. And then there's the sort of like you have to do certain stamina tests. So one of them was like you had to have your hands in the air and you had to like fin standing up, like vertical for like I think it was a minute, and then you had to dive down to a certain depth and then like rescue someone and bring them back up. So those sounded scary on paper, but honestly, they weren't as bad as I thought. Um, yeah. Jana, did you want to speak on the AIDA requirements?
No,
Or
I think all
for
of
I
them
can
are
pretty
online.
similar.
Yeah, like they're all there, and it's like the quality of the agency matters little as more it's more important that you connect with an instructor trainer or instructor that you really connect with, because
Hmm.
different people are gonna challenge you in other ways, and all of the agencies really have similar basic requirements across the board. And when you have a really great course, then you get the ability to go over and above with certain people, and that's part of the fun. And I think sometimes people really focus on this is the performance that I have to do, but really I think the most important thing that you have to learn in any course is how to be a good safety more than anything else. Like, are you a safe diver? Can you show up to people like in a state of an emergency, and do you respond always in a way that is safe? And I don't think people focus enough on that aspect of it. It's like, oh, I got to dive this depth, or I've got to hold my breath this long. It's like, okay, how are you a good safety? How are you a good buddy?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's you if you want to really train with people and have that experience, then you need to know how to show up and safety them properly because otherwise you just won't have buddies that want to train with you. And you can't really
Yeah.
get any better if you don't have a good buddy.
Yeah. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, if you have the opportunity to, I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to assist with Luca. And then just recently, I actually assisted with Jana. They have been amazing opportunities to learn. And honestly, like if you're thinking about being an instructor, if you have your level 3, like your assistant instructor certification, I would get in touch with as many instructors in your area and ask, like, can I assist on a course? Um, and get that experience, see how other people teach. I think it can be really enlightening to see what like kind of speaks to you or how different people teach, and just to get comfortable too, to see what that looks like. Um, what else? Oh, Aaron says that in Quebec, the lifeguard training is free in Quebec, so that's pretty awesome. So yeah, if you're in Quebec, maybe consider that because it was not free where I am. And honestly, like I initially did the lifeguarding course to do, like, obviously to build the relationships with the pool, but it was actually kind of interesting seeing how they do safety. Like, some of the things were like a lot different. And, like, just as an example, like, when we train in the pool, at least where I live, most pools have a shallow end and then it sinks into like a 4 meter deep pool. And, uh, I was kind of thinking, like, what if you're safetying from a pool deck, which some instructors do? I would be in the pool personally, but like, it just got me thinking, like, oh, if I had to rescue someone from the bottom of the pool and I didn't have fins and they were wearing weights, how would I rescue them and get like jump to the bottom of the deep end and bring them up? And the lifeguarding course actually had some interesting ways to do that I thought were effective. So just learning different safety measures was really kind of neat too, and just like practicing it and seeing if it's something that kind of jives with you. Um, yeah.
Awesome.
And
So, any final questions, comments that people want to jump in? We have just a few minutes left.
be a good role model. If you're going to be an instructor, be a good role model. Like Jana said, be safe, be positive, be friendly, be passionate. That's my other like piece of advice. But if you love this, it's going to come easy. So don't do this for the money. So you need to be passionate if you're going to want to do this. Yeah. Um, Jake asks, are you easily finding enough people that want to learn to run your first several courses? That's an interesting one. I've had a lot of emails. How many people actually sent me money is a different story. And I think that's maybe another thing you're going to have to sort of be resilient to is just putting in a lot of time into emailing people and then, having to be willing to let go when they're like, yeah, they kind of ghost you. So, um, yeah, I've luckily so far I've had enough people to so far I'm breaking even on all my costs. So I'm happy. And for me, this isn't about making money. This is more of a super like a passion project of just like kind of putting myself out there in the community. So anything extra, I'm super stoked on. I just want the experience to do it. Again, I think almost like everything, it's a lot about getting involved in making connections with people. If you want to kind of attract people, you need to be out there in the community. Um, if if you're out there in the community and you're passionate and excited, um, your friends that you dive with are going to send people to you. So just yeah, dive with people, be excited, be helpful, be a good role model, and the people will come. Yeah.
I'll throw in there too. It's really important that you have boundaries around your cancellation policies and your payment terms and have that be kind of everywhere. Like, if you're not working for a dive shop where people can just take courses over and over and over again, then it is a little bit more challenging. And, it's kind of that structure. Like, there are some people who can be pretty free, like, oh, yeah, you want to do a course this weekend? And like I do my course planning usually in August the year before. I mapped out my entire course schedule for the following year. And
This
that's
is why you're the treasurer.
I am also a super planner. I like it, but
I might have seen him. I'm a little more unhinged, but
I work full time, so there's a balance. Like, I'm happy to give one weekend a month to freediving, right? To freediving training, because I need buddies, and I like safe buddies. And so, it's always good to have that going on. And there are some tax benefits to having your own small business. So it's not like it's all one in, one out. There is that as well. But it's wonderful to have that community, and that's that balance for me. When I teach more than one weekend a month, then I don't get to free dive for myself, and then it becomes a job and not a gift, So
this is really resonating me. And Roberta has also given me the same words. And I feel like I'm going to learn this. Yeah, because I booked up a lot in June and I'm like, dude, I was really hoping to be busy in July when I'm not working. But I didn't want to say no because it's my first course. So I was being, yes, universe, pour it on. And now I'm going, oh my God, what should I do? But it's okay. It's a short term. It's going to be a short term little challenge. But yeah, I'll learn it. So thank you, Jenna.
thank you so much, Lalena. It was so wonderful to hear your experience, and really wonderful and inspiring for anybody that's on the fence and thinking about it. And I do want to say one thing that you've said to me. Like, sometimes people say there's not enough room for another instructor in this place. There is always enough room for another person to be a giving member of the community, and there are people who want to learn from you, right? Like, every person offers something new and unique and special, and like, it's great. If it's your passion, follow it. And it's been really cool to like witness you following your passion and giving back and being excited. And it's really wonderful, to have you be a member of our community. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, everyone. Such a big turnout. Thanks.